rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, I'll be reciting from Surah Fatir, ayah number 1. Surah Fatir, ayah number 1. It is on page 434 for those who would like to follow along. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله فاطر السماوات والأرض جاعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع يزيد في الخلق ما يشاء إن الله على كل شيء قدير. ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها وما يمسك فلا مرسل له من بعده وهو العزيز الحكيم. يا أيها الناس اذكروا نعمة الله عليكم هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض لا إله إلا هو فأنى تؤفكون. وإن يكذبوك فقد كذبت رسل من قبلك وإلى الله ترجع الأمور. يا أيها الناس إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. إن الشيطان لكم عدو فاتخذوه عدوا إنما يدعو حزبه ليكونوا من أصحاب السعير. الذين كفروا لهم عذاب شديد والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير. أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون. والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صلوات.
Fatiha. Just a few reminders before our speaker arrives rather. The commemoration of Ashura will take place Tuesday at 9 a.m. in English and 10 a.m. in Arabic here in Islam, at Islamic House of Wisdom. I like to remind you that there's a majlis for women at noon and at 3 p.m. every day. And then there's a program for youth from 8 p.m. until right before prayer. I'd like to remind you of the supporting the program any way you can. Also, as you well know, at the end on Ashura Day, we deliver and we give out harissa. And there is, I think, a box over there if you want to help with harissa, or if you want to assist with the making of harissa. They just keep working on it, I think, all night. So it's a lot of work if you like to help and assist with that. Imam Ilahi asked me to remind you also the membership. You can become a member of Islamic House of Wisdom. These forms are available. You can fill it out. It's a monthly membership. You can contribute to the success of Islamic House of Wisdom, and to put out programs like this and other programs as well. So you can be part of that, and you can support it any way you can. There are also opportunities to volunteer, see the office, or you can talk to me. We'll be more than happy to work with you. Today the program, one more thing, on the back of all of the seats where you're sitting, there's this code right here if you want to assist with the program. Forgive me if every night I remind you with these. They may sound redundant, but it's important that I remind you. We all are doing our share of making this program successful. It's important. You take the time to be here, and we appreciate it. So it's important that we all contribute to that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What do you think of the program so far, every night with our speaker? Sounds good. Sounds good. Again, it's very important that we get to the gist of it. It's important that we take something away from it. In business, when we do seminars, we normally say, what's the what they call it, the aha moment, meaning that you've been thinking about something, and then somebody articulates that, and you say, that's what I've been thinking about. Now I understand it more. I have a deeper understanding of what it is, and it makes sense to me. And this is when things stay with us, is when it makes sense with us. And again, I mentioned this the other day, which is the takeaway. What's the takeaway from this? If you recall, at the end of the lecture yesterday, I mentioned this is what was the takeaway about freedom. Today, the topic is about friends and foes. And those who were friends of Imam Hussain and those who were enemies of Imam Hussain, there are a lot of people who knew Imam Hussain, but they did not help him out. And there are people who were reluctant, and later on they became, friends of Imam Hussain and defenders of Imam Hussain. And, one of them, when first he was reluctant, second, later on, after Imam Hussain talked to him, he became one of the defenders, and he died on the 10th day of Ashura. And today, when we see Bi Abi Anta wa Ummi, every time we mention Ashura, we say a prayer for these men and women and children who died on the day of Ashura. It's what a privilege it is for these men who decided to defend Imam Hussain, and they knew they were dying. Can you imagine? Somebody knows they're going to die, but they still. That speaks to what? The conviction of and the depth of faith. Okay, I know I'm going to die, but I'm still going to defend what I believe in. Okay, you know what the speaker talked about yesterday. I just want to add one more thing, is that the two personalities, which is Al-Hurr and Umar ibn Sa'd, one of them choose, dunya, which is to, the whatever they promised him, over the bigger reward, which is the akhirah, and the other one choose something else. Don't we really come to that decision sometimes almost on a daily basis? We face a dilemma where, is this good or this bad? Should we do this and should we not do this? So what's the guide to that? The guide to that is when we say what? In the Tawheed, when we say La ilaha illallah. What does that mean? La ilaha illallah. It means that from now on, once we take that pledge, La ilaha illallah means from today on, whatever I do it in the path of the Lord. So before you're going to do anything, you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to say to myself, is this in the path of the Lord? This is the dilemma I'm facing. Would the Lord be happy with me if I do this? It doesn't matter how small it is. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's very important. So I didn't mean to start a lecture. I just wanted to just chat with you a little bit. And our speaker is here. Please help me welcome Brother Hussain Alnashed بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا وسيد الأولين والآخرين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتخبين المنتجبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The third of our salawat with the loudest of your voices, to give condolences to the heart of Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallah Ta'ala Farajuh al-Sharif. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Amma ba'd, my respected brothers and sisters, my elders, learned scholars, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'adham Allahu ujurana wa ujurakum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compensate each and every one of us for the sorrow and grief that we feel in this month of tragedy and lamentations as we relive the memories of Sayyid al-Shuhada Abi Abdullah al-Hussain alayhi salam Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our collective efforts with the best of acceptance, and that deed which we put forward on these days and these nights, it shall avail us on the day when no friends and family shall avail except the family of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib al-Mustafa. Tonight, the title is Of Friends and Foes. Two of the most crucial personalities that you should pay the utmost attention in selecting is your friends and your foes. For a friend is one who can take you out of Jahannam and put you in Jannah. And a friend is also one who can take you out of Jannah and place you in Jahannam. And this is not whimsical speech. These are not flowery words. These are realities and facts which we find in the Quran al-Kareem. Whereupon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and mention to them the story of one who on the day of Qiyamah shall be biting at his fist out of remorse. You know, when an insan severely regrets something, especially the Arab, we bite our fist. It's like complete frustration. So Allah is using that terminology. Now we don't know if He's going to be biting His fist or not, but Allah is trying to convey the layers of nadam, regret, the layers of feeling sorry for oneself based on decisions that were made in this lifetime. But why is he biting on his fist? Why is he regretful? What is it that he saw now that he realized which he did not realize in the dunya? يقول, he will be saying in his state of sorrow, يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا. I wish I would have remained on the path of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. But then he tells us what took him away from Rasulullah. كان لي صاحب. The beauty in the Quran is that when it's telling this story, he doesn't say, I have a friend. He says, I used to have a friend. Meaning what? Meaning on Yawm al-Qiyamah, the homies, they're not going to be around you. The family, they're not going to be around you. Everyone will be saying, Allahumma nafsi, nafsi. In fact, the Quran al-Kareem describes that day, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and they, the people, shall say, take my siblings, take my sisters, take my friends, take my ashira, take my entire tribe that I used to brag that I am from this family name and that family name, take the whole family, pour them into hellfire face first, Ya Allah, but just me, let me make it to Jannah. When we see that there is no more joke, that there is no more play, that Jannah and Jahannam are haqq, that Sirat is haqq, that the questioning is haqq. These are realities that Allah has promised and we're going to see them. When he realizes, he says, I used to. كَانَ لِي صَاحِبٌ. I used to have a friend. So that friendship is dunya based. Why would I then ruin my akhirah based on dunya friendships? كَانَ لِي صَاحِبٌ. I had a bad friend. And that is why I turned against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm going to give you the quick story of this individual, which I do believe we mentioned this in the month of Shahr Ramadan. However, it weighs in on the topic of tonight, heavily rather, on the matter and the subject of choosing friends and choosing your enemies. Right? Both of them require wisdom. And I sincerely mean you need to choose your enemies. Don't make, some of us go out in the world, we're just mad at everyone, right? Anger issues, right? And we make enemies of everyone. Whereas Rasulullah tells us, do not even make enemies with a stone. Sometimes we're walking, we just kick a stone. Rasulullah says, don't even make enemies with a stone. For you never know in which day in your life you will face a problem that stone could have resolved it. Don't make enemies. That's not what Allah sent us for. While at the same time on the subject of enemies, when we say, ikrah flan, I hate flan, I hate flana. Despise them. And by the way, hate is a very strong word that is so readily available in our repertoire. Rasulullah says, when you hate, hate with gentleness. For you never know when hate can turn to love. Allah says in the Quran al-Kareem, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and it could be the one that you once took to be your sworn enemy, today is a friend who you never want to leave their embrace. Every time you see them, you hug them. Life, dunya, dawara, it changes. Some of us today, and I speak specifically to the community of Shi'at Aba Abdullah al-Hussain, who are all here not for me, not for the House of Wisdom, but for the memory of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And I am sure each one of us is asking ourselves, how can I strengthen the community of the Imam. You cannot strengthen it without making strong bonds amongst yourselves as a collective community. In fact, it is the most important thing that you treat all the Shia of Ahlul Bayt as your friends, because it is a sworn covenant that we take in every ziyarah that we do for Imam al-Hussein. What do we say to him? أشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم, until the end of it. Then, after swearing that I've recognized all these noble virtues about you, O Ahlul Bayt, and my love is only for you, my animosity is to your enemies, and I'm calling Allah and the Messenger and the angels to bear witness to this testimony, then what do we say to the Imam? Inni silmun liman. I'm sure everybody knows this, baby. Come on, don't let me down. Silmun liman salamakum. I promise you, Ya Imam al-Hussein, that I am going to make peace with every individual that has sworn to make peace with you. Yet unfortunately, sometimes you see Shia, Iraqi, Lebanese, Iraqi, and we're at each other's throats as if we're sworn enemies. There are hands behind the scenes that are collectively working to weaken the nation of Al-Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Believe in that like you believe in God. Sayyid Hassan says the devil doesn't stop working when you're sleeping, so why do you stop trying to fight him when you sleep? This is a man who's on the front lines, not in Dearborn arguing over a business between him and another Shia, no. We as Shia need to have that love, that mawadda, that silim towards each other. We as a Shia people should love one another via the wasila of love of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salamullah, so much so that we ourselves must feel ashamed when we find out that there is one amongst us who has fallen behind. Whether it's due to poverty, whether it's due to being estranged and not having family in Dearborn. Sometimes you get people coming straight from Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, wherever they're coming from the world, and they don't really have a community and a family in Dearborn. We ought to, as a Shia, treat them like our family. Interestingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made salah of the traveler, one of the reasons He made it qasr, so that when you're praying in the masjid, those in the masjid will immediately know that you're from out of town. And the Muslim community, forget the Shia community, just the general Muslim community, we are supposed to go up to the brother or the sister who's praying qasr and say, Salamu alaikum, welcome to my community, your community. Have you eaten? Do you have a place to stay? Do you have anyone to hang around with? Are you here visiting family or are you just passing by? We don't even do that anymore. We just want to do things on the individual level, and that's not our fault. So nobody think that this is a telling off or a telling to. But when you grow up in a Western society such as these United States, where it's all about the individual, because in America we have separation of church and state. So the state is not even responsible to teach you about your religious obligations or your social obligations. The state is there to ensure that legally your business is okay, taxes are paid, streets are paved, but it doesn't get involved in religion and how we're supposed to act as a religious community. And that can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it could be bad in the sense that because there is no religious obligation, we become irreligious people. We don't care much for religion. It becomes just lip service. Or it could be extremely amazing that I, as a Muslim and a Shia, whose history has been 1400 years of oppression, I've been oppressed, and I speak in the collective of all of our ancestors because we are all one collective community. We don't disconnect. We inherit. We inherit the suffering and the pains of our ancestors, but we also inherit the joy of their labor. And insha'Allah, we do not fail the future generations, that we can pass on to them what we have received in a better way than we have received it, insha'Allah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So, silmun liman salamakum wa harbun liman harabakum. My enemy should only be the one who harbors animosity towards Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. A lot of us confuse it and say that Shias are at war with Sunnis. No, we're not. Just because I'm talking my history doesn't mean I hate you. You're not the one who did it. In fact, we have nothing but love for our brothers and sisters from the Ahl Sunnah. Testament to that is our blood that has been shed for Gaza. That no one but the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhim salamullah have stood by the mustad'afeen of Gaza. No one but the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib stood by the Christians and the Sunnis of Sham, Damascus. A part of the world that did not show any kindness to the daughters of Rasulullah when they were brought captives. We did not hold that as a grudge and say, your ancestors threw stones at the daughter of Rasulullah. No. Because my Imam is Hussain. My Imam is Ali. My mother is Fatima Zahra. I don't hold grudges like that. Not on a community, collective level, no. But if you happen to be from another school of thought that makes mockery of the Ahlul Bayt, or you as an individual take light the tragedy of Karbala and you think it's nothing, then yes, I do have a problem with you. Not as an individual, but on a aqeedah level. My Imam tells me when he stands at the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً سَمِعَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. May Allah remove His mercy from a people who heard the tragedy of yours, Ya Aba Abdullah, and it did not move anything in them. They became indifferent to your suffering. وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً سَمِعَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. Meaning, me as a Shi'i, my barometer, my moral compass is Ahlul Bayt. If you're with them, I'm with you till judgment comes. If you're against them, I'm against you until the cows come home. Let's see what happens first, right? Now, this individual, coming back to the original story, in the ayah of the Quran al-Kareem, where he's biting his hand and saying, I wish I remained with the Prophet, he was a man who had made a covenant with a friend that they shall never abandon the religion of their ancestors and they will not join Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam no matter how much sense he makes. In one of these days, one of the individuals, the person who is in the Quran al-Kareem mentioned, I don't particularly happen to have the name, but this individual, he is blessed with something, whether it's a wedding, a child, but there is a reason to have feast at his home. And he invites all the nobles of Quraysh. And when you're inviting the nobles of Quraysh, you have to put Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the first on that list. You cannot invite the nobles of Quraysh, but you don't invite Rasulullah. Even if you don't believe that he is a Nabi, his status in the community long before that was As-Sadiq al-Amin. Kabsh al-Hijaz, Shaykh al-Hijaz. These were titles given to the Prophet. So he goes to Rasulullah and he says, Ya Rasulullah, I want to invite you to this azima that we're having. Rasulullah says to him, beautiful, thank you. I really appreciate the invitation, but I'm just going to let you know right now before I show up at your home so you don't take it as insult. When I come to your home, I'm not going to eat anything. I'll be there, I'll be present, but I'm not going to eat anything. He said to him, then what are you coming for? Do you know how, especially for Arab, and I mean like Arab, Bedouin Arab, you know, my G's from Iraq, you'll know this, right? We call it Hashim. I don't know if Lebanese use the same thing. But if someone comes to your home and they don't drink your coffee, or they don't eat your food, it's a big, big, big boo-boo. Big boo-boo. The whole community is going to gossip if Flan went to Flan's house and he didn't drink their coffee. Maybe there's something wrong with the woman of the house. Like we're like that. Our tribal things, even astaghfirullah, Allah hasn't fully made sense of it yet. We have very tribal tendencies. So he says to the Prophet, he says, what do you mean you're not going to eat? If you're not going to eat, it would be better that you don't show up, because then people are going to talk. They say Muhammad came to your home and he didn't eat your food. That means Muhammad knows something bad about you. So he says to Rasulullah, he says, no, you got to save my face in the community. Rasulullah says, I can't save you at the cost of going to hell. He says, but why can't you eat my food? He says, because your food is not prepared by a person who believes in one God. You worship idols. Therefore, in my sharia, your food is najis. I can't eat from it. Even if you go get Abdullah or some Ja'far guy to come and cut it in a halal way, you yourself, from a sharia point of view, as a mushrik, you're in a state of najasa. You don't follow my sharia, which teaches me how to purify myself from najasa. And the first way we purify ourselves from najasa is we make niyyah, nawaytu an aqtasila ghusl, whatever, qurbatan ta'atan ila Allah. So you don't even believe in Allah, so you can't even do the ghusl. So we have a problem. It's not you, boo-boo. It's not going to work out. He says there's got to be a solution. I've already told everyone you're coming. There's got to be a way. What can I do to help? Rasulullah says, look, there's only one way, and that's for you to take the shahada, to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Now you become mu'min, you follow the teachings, I can eat your food. He says, that's how I got to do. He says, that's what you got to do. He says, I bear witness that there is no God, and I bear witness that you, Muhammad, are his messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu ala Habib al-Mustafa. The brother throws down, the Prophet eats, everybody's happy, except who? The BFF. The best friends. Isn't it always the best friends who get us into trouble? Isn't it always the best friend who's telling you, hey, what does your mom know? What does your dad even know? Hey, what does the Imam at the Jami' knows? Mu'attar, the guy drives a beat up car, he just came from back home. What does he know about this life? He don't know nothing. That's, by the way, one of the greatest injustices we do in Dearborn, and I think in the West in general, is we have some powerhouse scholars. If you just sit with them and humble yourself and actually listen to them, you will walk away with years worth of knowledge, more than I can ever impart to you or anybody else can impart to you. But the problem is we find that their accent is a little bit funny. The accent, subhanAllah, look how rich we've become, huh? That the Prophet or the word of God, if it comes with an accent, I find it comical. I don't want to follow it. You have to speak the Queen's English, or you have to speak full-on Harvard American for me to think, oh, you're intellectual. It's going to make sense now. And again, we talk like that when our friends start saying, did you hear his accent? Did you hear how he said that? I mean, come on, we've all been to the same mosque, same centers, probably same friends. His friend sees him the next day. He says, "Qabbaha wajhak." May your face be dark in the community, right? Not in the racial slur, but like you're too ashamed to show your face in public. He says, why? He says, after all these years of friendship, you break the covenant? After all these years, you turn your back on me and you go and follow Muhammad? Didn't we shake hands on this? He says, cuz I didn't follow him because I believe in his message. I needed the man to eat in my home. The only way for me to do that is to take the shahada. He says to him, you're lying to me. He says, I swear by the gods of our ancestors, I'm not lying to you. He says, no, you're lying. You have to prove to me that you don't believe he's the messenger of God. He said, how do I prove it to you? He said, go and spit in his face. Go, find Muhammad in the market and go and spit in his face to show me that you do not believe in him. He walks up to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He sees the Holy Prophet. He hesitates. The Prophet warns him. Don't do what you're about to do. Allah's already informed me. He doesn't listen. The Prophet's saying don't do it. The friend's saying do it. He listens to the friend. He spits in the direction of the Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instantaneously did two things. He sent a wind that sent the saliva back to his face and it didn't touch the Prophet. And the saliva, Allah turned it into a form of acid that burnt him and killed him instantaneously. As soon as his body dropped and hit the ground, Jibreel also hit the ground with the ayah of the Quran al-Kareem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And on that day when he shall be biting his fist, saying, I wish I would have stayed with the Prophet, but I had a bad friend who took me to the pits of Jahannam. So it's very important who you choose as a friend. Your friend can either be that kind of person who reminds you constantly, hey, 3 months left to Arba'een, how much you got saved up? Hey, 2 months left to Arba'een, how much we got saved up? I got friends, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, and this is a blessing from Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. They would call me from England or Canada or wherever they are at the time of the world and like, salam, Arba'een, what's happening? I never say I'm not going, I always say inshallah I'm going. Because one time I said I'm not going and I literally got a smack. Because that's the kind of friends I have, right? I said, what do you mean you're not going? Never plan not to go to Karbala. Plan to go, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But always be ready to go to Karbala. And they will call me, and if I say to them I'm not going, sometimes it's financial reasons, right? Ziyarah is an expensive thing. You're gone for an extensive time. So I don't even need to tell them what the reason is, but they just ask this one question. Is it finance or anything else? The moment I say it's finance, they just hang up the phone. Because they already know my full name, they know my date of birth, they know everything about me. They go ahead and they book my ticket and they send it. Yallah, we're going ziyarah. We're not going without each other. You got to have friends who bring you closer, not further away from the path of truth. Number one. Number two, what is a friend? Have we ever really thought and reflected on what is a friend? Because see, sometimes we use the word friends loosely. I'm out with my friends. I'm hanging around with the boys. I'm out with the friends. In the UK, at a very young age, they teach you the difference between a friend, an associate, and an acquaintance. And that really helps when you know the difference. An associate is someone who I just have to associate with at work, at school. We don't necessarily have to share same values and principles. We don't even have to believe in the same God. We have examples in the Quran al-Kareem of people that were actually very close to each other. They would converse and talk, but one doesn't believe in Allah and one believes in Allah. Prime example in Surah Al-Kahf. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And when they entered to their gardens and they were disputing, they were having a debate, a religious debate, so this tells us that this is a normal conversation these guys have. One of them said to his friend, I don't believe that there is a heaven and hell after this life. And I don't believe that there is a God. And look, I've got all these riches, I've never needed God in my life. But if I die and there is a God, I'm sure the same God who gave me this is going to give me better. Yani, I don't believe in him. But if there happens to be a God on the other side of town, then he gave me in this dunya, he's also going to give me in the akhirah. He thinks that he's going to get it without, see, this is the problem with the non-believer, is that they don't see this life as a testing ground. When the reality is that this is only what this life is. It's a testing ground. It's a testing ground for us to prove that we actually believe in what we say we believe in. If I say I believe in Allah and I believe that He's my sustainer and I lose my job and I rob a bank, Allah's not my sustainer. I might say it till kingdom come, but I don't believe that Allah's my sustainer because I've committed crime to save myself from poverty. If I believe in Allah and Imam Hussain and everything else, and I'm a drug lord, and I think that's the only way I'm going to make money, then how much have I believed in Allah being my sustainer? So actions in this world bear testament to words which we profess about God, about life hereafter. So an associate is a person who can be from a different faith. An associate could be just someone who I meet at work. An associate could be a mutual friend of a friend. An acquaintance is a little bit closer than an associate. Associate, we're just associated through a thing, through work, through something. But an acquaintance is an associate who I am well acquainted with. So in Arabic, when someone says to you, "Min hada," you say, "Ba'rifu," I know him. You don't say he's my friend. You don't say he's my, like, when you have really close friends, they become cousins in the Arab world, right? You don't say that's my cousin, right? You say, "Ba'rifu," I know him, we're acquainted. So I know him beyond work, beyond just his name. I know which mosque he goes to. I know where he likes to go hang out and eat. But he's not someone that I hit up on a Thursday night when I'm about to do something with the lads, right? A friend, on the other hand, is a person, and this is a true meaning of a friend. A friend is your mirror. This is what we used to say back home. Your friend is your mirror. And this is not just a metaphorical sense, right? So, we, the desert people, my mom would tell me stories. She says, we never used to have mirrors in the desert. Who's stopping by to even sell you a mirror? So she said, whenever we would do our makeup, like as girls, right? Not me, her, we, right? Whenever we do our makeup, or we want to do our hijab, or we want to do our hair or anything, we would sit with our best friend. So they would sit face to face, and as this one moves her hand up, the other one does all the exact same moves. You are literally copying each other. So that when I'm done fixing my hijab, however her hijab looks is most likely how my hijab looks. So your friend is truly your mirror. They are a person who believes what you believe. They are a person who shares your convictions. They are a person who is, basically in Arabic we say, رُبَّ لَكَ أَخًا لَمْ تَلِدْهُ لَكَ أُمَّكَ. It could be, and this is Amir al-Mu'mineen saying, it could be that you will find a brother or a sister whom your mother never gave birth to. That's what your friend is. They become just like a brother or a sister, but they're not related to you by blood. You become mirrors of each other. Which tells us that we ought to really question some of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam and ask ourselves, were they friends? Were they acquaintances? Were they there for their own benefit? Did they believe like the Prophet believed? Were they mirrors of the Prophet and his actions and his akhlaq and his adab? Because when you give someone the keys to the city and you say the reason you're being made Khalifa is because you are the Prophet's best friend, we really got to ask, okay, well, what kind of friendship did you have with the Prophet? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen describes the best friend in the following. He says, you will never know your true friends in life. Let's get that right out of the way. Your true friend, you'll never know him in your lifetime. Because the test of friendship begins when you die. Your friend will be tested in 3, Amir al-Mu'mineen says. If he honors these 3, then know that he or she is your friend. If they fail in 1, they weren't really that good of a friend. They will keep all your secrets. Just because you're no longer there, they're not going to talk about you. Nahna, we got best friends, we meet, we see each other, hugs, blah, blah, blah. Soon as they turn their back to go and pay the tab, we're like, see that person? Man, I hate them every time. Da, 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 da. My G, I'm not dead yet, I can still hear you. Whereas Amir al-Mu'mineen says your friend keeps your secret even after you died. They don't ever speak about you in ill. Number 1. Number 2, they will never allow you to be slandered. Ever. The very least your friend ought to do is when someone is bad-mouthing you is get up and leave. Maybe the people talking about my friend are also my friends. I don't have to start argument with them because remember, silmun liman salamakum. I'm not going to start making more enemies, but I'll say respectfully, I don't want to hear it about my friend. And I don't think you guys should be doing this to begin with. As your friend, I'm advising you. And then dip. Don't stay there. Imam Zainul Abidin one time was sitting Two people started to gossip next to him. Even though he was sick and ill, he got up and he started to run as fast as he could, as like walk as fast as physically is possible for someone who was as ill as Imam Zain al-Abidin. Someone came up to him and said, "Why are you in a rush?" He said, "I heard them gossiping, so I ran away in case Allah's adhab falls on them, then I too will die." But nahna, as soon as we hear gossip, lean in, get all the juicy bits, send it. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Allah will question us about even the little looks that we give each other when someone walks in the room. Right? So if we want to be in the caravan of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam Allah, let's try and be in the suhbah of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam Allah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So, and the third is what? That they will execute your will. It's the most important one. My friend must execute my will. Rasulullah said to his friends in Bukhari, not in the book of the Shia, in Bukhari, "Bring me pen and paper that I may write for you my will. If you shall hold on to it, you shall never go astray as a nation, ever." لن تضل, لن بالنون الأبدية. In Arabic there is la, there is lam, and there is lan with an N. When you put the noon at the end, it means it's impossible that this thing will ever happen. Never ever. There is not even a remote chance of this thing happening. The Prophet is saying to his ummah, rather to his friends, "Bring me just pen and paper. That's all I need from you. I've carried your dead weight for 23 years bringing this risala when you guys ran away and left me in Uhud. I didn't really ask you for much. After 23 years of fighting to bring you Islam, and 40 years before that apparently we were homies, right? Bring me just a pen and paper. That's it. ما بكلف عليك كتير خير. شيء بسيط. Didn't ask you to pay my debts, didn't tell you to take care of my family. Just bring me pen and paper." Umar ibn al-Khattab says, "Leave him, the man is delirious." Allah doesn't hit with a stick. Because the very same man who denied the Prophet pen and paper, when he was stabbed by Abu Lu'lu', he started calling, "Bring me pen and paper." What kind of friend are you? You denied the Prophet pen and paper, but you expect us to bring you pen and paper. What kind of friend are you? Your daughter becomes the leader of the Muslim world while the daughter of Rasulullah is beaten by you. What kind of friend are you? You gave nothing to Islam, yet you took everything. What kind of friend are you? Because I'll be real with you, if that was my homeboy, would have got a smack across the mouth a long time ago. That's not a friend. That's not even an acquaintance. That's an associate. That's an opportunistic. That's a person who was just with you so that they can get whatever they can get from you. And Lord knows we've got a lot of those people. Those are not friends. A friend is like Habib ibn Madahir alayhi salamullah, whom about him Imam al-Hussain says, "Wallah, there have never been friends like mine, and there shall never be friends like mine." Wallah, there have never been friends like mine, and there shall never be friends like mine. Such great friends that Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq himself says, بِأَبِي أَنْتُمْ وَأُمِّي طِبْتُمْ وَطَابَتِ الْأَرْضِ الَّتِي فِيهَا دُفِنْتُمْ فَيَا لَيْتَنِي كُنْتُ مَعَكُمْ فَأَفُوزَ مَعَكُمْ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. I would sacrifice my mother and father. Who's your mother and father, O Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq? Your mother is Sayyidat Nisa al-Alameen. Your father is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Your father is Rasulullah Muhammad. Your father is Al-Imam Hussain Al-Mujtaba. Your father is Sayyid Al-Shuhada'i bi Karbala. Your father is Baqiru Ilm Al-Nabiyyin. Your father is Sadiq Al-Ahl Al-Bayt. You stand there and you say, Bi Abi Antum wa Ummi. If it were down to me, I would give up who my father is, and I would give up the title of being who my mother is, so that I will only be ever known as a friend from Ashab al-Hussein. Of those notable 72 companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Before I tell you about them, I'm just going to tell you one quick story that happened during Saddam's time, so that you and I know that to this day, Imam al-Hussein is still enlisting for that title of Ashab al-Hussein. It's not a title that was fulfilled and it was ended. No. I believe it was 1993 or 1994. There was a revolution in Iraq right at the back of the end of the first Gulf War, maybe even 91. I'm getting old. But in that time, immediately after the Gulf War, there was what we call Nahda, a revolution in Najaf and in Karbala. And Saddam literally sends a radio to the Americans saying, if you still want to have someone that you might be able to control in Iraq, you need to come and save me from the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib right now. Otherwise, it's all on tops, baby. So the Americans send their Apaches in to support Saddam and keep him in power. The Shia, when they realized that they were outnumbered, there was only one place of sanctuary to run to, and that was the shrine of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. When they get in there, for those of us who have been blessed, and for those who haven't, I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this year He writes your names of the Zuwar of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ilahi al-Haqi, Ameen, say Ameen. You would see that even in the shrine of Imam al-Hussein till this day, there are marble tiles from the dome that have bullet holes in them to show you just how close they came to the shrine of the Imam and what they did. To make a long story short, there were 10 people that remained. And this is a story that was told to me by one of the Khaddam in the Haram of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salamullah. Says there were 10 people left, and these 10 people, Saddam al-Ain walks in and he sees that they are all like this on the Darih of Imam al-Hussein. Their bodies protecting the shrine, because they thought Saddam is going to destroy the grave of the Imam alayhi salamullah. And they wanted to do what? They wanted to ensure that even if they cannot stop it, that their bodies take as much of the bullets so that less hits the holy shrine of the Imam. Saddam comes in, he says, ma baddak al-haki. I'm just going to ask you one question. Based on how you answer, things will play out. He says to the first one, he says, look, you have a choice. You're either with this Hussein, because he's Saddam Hussein. He says, you're either with this Hussein or this Hussein. If you've lived in Saddam's time, you know the adhab that he does is like a French chef with pastries, right? They get very creative. Saddam, la'natullah alayhi, was very, 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 very creative in how he tortured the Shia of the Ahlul Bayt. And I'm talking as a person who grew up with books and videos and footage of what was happening to our people. Saddam will be the kind of person that will get a kid your age. And there's a video of him where he puts him in a pit. What's his crime? Shia of Imam al-Hussein. He puts him in a pit. He puts a C4 explosive. And he walks away. And he tells the kid, kiss my shoes. He says, no. Hayhat min adhilla. He says, okay. No questions. The video doesn't last 30 seconds. Yalla jibu li min ba'du. Uday, Saddam's son, would take the Shia and tie them, and again I have the video footage, tie them hand and foot, and throw them from the top of a 3-story building. If they survived, he took them up again, and he threw them down. Qusay, on the other hand, used to love rally racing. So Qusay, his dad, builds him a racetrack. Qusay would bring the Shia men, would tie their feet to the back of his rally vehicle, and he drives around at high speed trying to do a wheelie so that the body of the Shia slams onto the side. And then you see him laughing with his friend. He says, we almost got it, put another one on. Uday would go into the streets of Baghdad and he would find Shia women, kidnap them, rape them. Yes, you heard right. This was in the streets of Baghdad. The men would no longer allow their women to go out to do anything because they were afraid. His son Qusay would go to the elementary school, take a bunch of kids, line them up, and he starts target practice. Then he sends a bill to the family saying, we're in a state of war with Iran, and your kids made me use bullets, which we actually need to use against the Iranians. So you, the family, have to pay the state for the bullets that were used to kill your son. The levels of adhab that people saw. So now you've got Saddam himself standing in front of you and he's asking you. And the reason why I tell you this is so that you understand what those Shias were going through. Because a lot of us, we'd say, well, Imam Ali, I would have said, I'm with Imam al-Hussain and I would have done it, who cares? But it's not just you. Your mother is in the picture. Your sister's in the picture. Your father's in the picture. Your whole tribe and Ashura is in the picture. And you're dealing with a man that doesn't fear God or God's messenger. He says to the first one, with this Saddam, with this Hussein or this Hussein, he says, I'm with you. I'm with you, I'm sorry. I rebelled, I'm sorry, I don't want to die, I don't want to harm my family. And taqiyya allows us to say such things. So he's saved. The next one, with me or with this Hussein? He says, I'm with this Hussein. No hesitation, Saddam takes his pistol right in the forehead, between the eyes, kills him. Next one, with this Hussein or with me? With you, boss. With this Hussein or with me? With you, boss. With this Hussein or with me? With this Hussein. Kill him. The rest all said there was Saddam. So 2 people died on that day. The tradition goes that all those who survived had the exact same dream. And this is where the tradition begins. They saw Imam al-Hussein with Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas and the Ansar come up to the first Shaheed and bury him exactly where he fell. Then they went to the second Shaheed and picked up his body and began to walk away. So we asked, Ya Aba Abdullah, where are you taking him? He said, I am taking him to bury him with my 72 companions. They said, but Ya Aba Abdullah, why did you differentiate between this one and this one? They both died for you. They both said they were with you. And as a result, they were both killed. So why leave this one here and take one to be buried with Ashab al-Hussein? He said the first one, when he said, I am with this Hussein, he didn't think Saddam was going to kill him. He thought, what's Saddam going to do? Torture me? Put me in prison? Torture my family? I'm willing to do all that for Sayyid al-Shuhada. Whereas the second one, he saw that if I say I'm with this Hussein, nothing awaits me but a bullet in the head, and I'm going to take a bullet for Imam al-Hussein. He had the similarity of my 72. The willingness to die for the cause of the Imam. Now, today, the Imam is not saying to us, go out and die to be part of my 72. He's just telling you, kill the things that are in you that are not in my 72. Kill the things that are in you that are in shimr. Kill the things that are in you that are more like my enemies. Kill that. And if you can kill enough of your old self, you will be reborn amongst the 72. And about Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam Allah, this Imam truly, truly values friendships. Some people, friendships are wasted on them because they don't appreciate their friends. You can go to the end of the world for them and they will sell you out so cheaply, but not Sayyid al-Shuhada Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Because he was a man who was desperately in need of good companionship, good friendship. There is a companion of the 72 who is distinguished in that he is the only companion of Imam al-Hussein that has his own grave far away from the rest of the companions. And this is so that Imam honors him and that history doesn't forget that Hussain never forgets his friends. This person is by the name of Habib ibn Madahir alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. Before I tell you of his story, let us honor him with 3 salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. We are told that when you go to ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein, your ziyarah begins by visiting Habib first. Because Imam al-Hussein says, Habib is the one who records the name of my guests. So you go to Habib and you register your name. Ya Habib, iktib ismi. Write my name. Habib, even though he is older than Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah by some 10 years, Habib was Imam Hussein's best friend since childhood. They were inseparable. Madahir, the father of Habib, is one of the most loyal companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Rasulullah. This is one of the oldest houses in Islam. Amir al-Mu'mineen and Madahir were best friends. Habib and Hussein were best friends. One day, Rasulullah sees Habib running behind Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah. So Imam al-Hussein is playing with the other children at the age of 3. Habib is 13 years old. Habib sees wherever Imam al-Hussein puts his foot, he runs to that place and he picks up the sand and he smells it, then he kisses it, then he pours it over his head to take barakah from where Sayyid al-Shuhada walked. Rasulullah looks at him, he says to him, why don't you go and play with the kids? He says, this is where my joy is found, at the feet of Hussein. Ma khasni bid-dunya. If we're playing so that we have fun, I'm having all the fun in the world. Rasulullah looks at his father, he said, blessed is the father and blessed is the child. Then he tells the father of what will happen to Habib in Karbala. And that this is a man who will never abandon Imam al-Hussein. Habib and Imam Hussein alayhim salamullah, and not many people believe this story, although it's a very authentic story in the chain of narration and the amount of times it has been narrated. Habib is called the owner of 2 martyrdoms, Sahib al-Shahadatain, meaning that he died for Imam al-Hussein in this world twice. Nobody else has been given that laqab, Sahib al-Shahadatain. The tradition goes as follows. The Amir al-Mu'mineen was invited to the house of Madahir. So Habib sends a request with the request to Imam Ali alayhi salamullah, if it's possible, can you bring Imam al-Hussein with you so we can play together? You know, like parents now when they want to go out, they say, Mama, can I come with you so I can play with the kids? Habib's saying to Amir al-Mu'mineen, my master, if it's okay, can you bring Imam Hussein so I can play with him? Habib was on the satah. For those who don't know what satah is, it's the roof, the flat roof that we have back home. So Habib was sitting on the satah, waiting and looking at the horizon from the direction which Amir al-Mu'mineen normally approaches the city of Medina when he's coming back. Because Imam used to have a place used to have farms in a place called Madian, not too far from Medina. And while Habib was on the roof and he's looking and he's waiting for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah, in the distance he saw the silhouette of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah approaching. Habib, so excited that his best friend is coming towards the home, he forgot that he was on the roof of the house and he ran straight forward. And he fell and his head hit the ground and he died. He fell to the ground head first. And he died. Look at the love of this family. The father goes to the mother and he says, listen, our son has just died. Shh, don't make a sound. Go, help me put him in his bed. When Imam al-Hussain comes in, tell him Habib is sleeping. I don't want to be the reason that the son of Fatima is going to cry on this day. Tell him Habib is asleep. And do not show a single sign of sorrow on your face that your son has died on this day. Until Ali and Hussein leave the house, then we can cry for our son. That's friends. They put you above everything else. Amir al-Mu'mineen walks into the house. Salam o Madahir wa alaykum as-salam ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam al-Hussein, the first question he says, ya Madahir, where is Habib? He says, Habib is sleeping. He said, call him. He said, Ya Aba Abdullah, he's sleeping. He says, please, call him. Tell Habib that his Habib is asking for him. Tell him his best friend is here. Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at Madahir, and Madahir knows that Amir al-Mu'mineen knows that his son has died. He said to him, go call your son. He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you know I cannot call him. He said, go stand at his body and tell him Habib Hussein is waiting for you, and see how he reacts. So he goes to him, he says, Ya Habib, Aba Abdullah is calling you, so go to him. The tradition says Habib stood up as if nothing had happened to him and went outside to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. And that is why he is known as a man who died for the love of Hussein twice, not once. On Yawm Ashura, or rather on the 9th day of Muharram al-Haram, Umar ibn Sa'd la'natullah alayhi was so eager to go and get the reward from Yazid for the killing of Imam al-Hussein. He looked at the army and he said, what are we waiting for? There's already enough of us. Let's just march in one straight line and trample over Hussein and his band of friends. What can they do? The tradition says that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah could see that stones are rumbling on the earth. When 35,000 people march, the earth shakes. So when he saw the rumbling of the stones, he called Abul Fadl al-Abbas. He says to him, Ya Abbas, I believe that they are about to attack. Go and tell them to give us one more day. For I have a friend who I am waiting for, and I don't want to leave this dunya until he's with me. See, when you know you're going Jannah, you will delay Karbala by a day so that Habib ibn Madahir can be with you, so that you enter Jannah together. That's friendship. Friendship is when my boy goes to the masjid and he takes me with him, not because he wants to feel like غصباً عنك بدك تصلي, but because he actually says, brother, I'm trying to make it to heaven and I'm trying to make sure that you make it with me. Sister, I'm trying to make it to heaven. I'm trying to make sure that my sisters are with me. Our friends are supposed to always think about us whenever there is khair, whenever there is good deeds to be done. Those are your friends, the ones who think for the best of this dunya as well as your next life, inshallah. So the army stops its march and they give Imam al-Hussein alayhi salamullah respite for one more day. He writes a letter to Habib ibn Madahir and he sends it with one of his best scouts, because as you know, Kufa was completely locked up, so no one could enter and no one could leave, because they didn't want people to join al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Habib alayhi salamullah, on the night, he had asked his wife to bring him henna. And henna was used to, when your hair turns white, you put henna so that it looks brownish, blackish, so that people don't think you're old. And Habib told his wife, he said, prepare me henna. And his wife, lovingly and jokingly, is teasing him about his age. She says, sure, khatyarat, you become old, now you want henna, this, that, the other. And they had a beautiful relationship, by the way. So when she's telling him all this, at the same time he receives the letter from the messenger. When he opens the letter, it reads, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. From one Habib to another Habib. From Hussain ibn Ali to Habib ibn Madahir. My dearest friend, if you are still faithful to the promise we made in childhood, that we shall never abandon each other, then know that my caravan has reached the land of Karbala. And know that we have been surrounded from all sides. And know that my enemies are aplenty and my friends are few. So if you still can find it in you to help me one more time, then I shall be waiting for you in the land of Karbala. Habib alayhi salamullah takes the letter, kisses it, wipes his face with it, takes the henna and throws it away. His wife says to him, I was only teasing you. I didn't mean to anger you. He says to her, no, my dear. There is no more need for henna in my life. For this white beard shall change color from the wound of this head of mine. He bids his wife farewell. He goes, gets on his horse. He had a servant. He looked at his servant. He says to him, today you are free for the sake of Allah. The servant begins to cry. He says to him, my master, have I been a bad helper? He says, no, you've been the best helper. He says, then why are you so unkind to me? He said, what do you mean? He said, you're going to help the son of Fatima to Zahra, and in dying you're going to go to Jannah. You don't want to take me with you so that I get to go to Jannah too? What kind of a bad friend have I been to you that you abandon me now? Take me with you. So he says to him, then get on the back of the horse with me. They both get on the horse and they march until they get to Karbala. Know that all the tragedy of Ashura, the only time Imam al-Hussein smiled, true smile on his face, was when he saw Habib come towards the Mukhayyam. Can you imagine being that person for Imam Mahdi? That you're the reason your Imam smiles, because he knows here comes one of the good ones. Here comes one of the sincere ones. Here comes one of the true ones. Habib, when he came to the Mukhayyam, as soon as he got off his horse, the Sahaba all began to rejoice. When they began to rejoice, Sayyida Zainab alayha salamullah thought that the enemy had begun the attack, hence why the ashab are making all this loud noise. So she says to Fidda, oh Fidda, go and see what is happening outside. Fidda alayha salamullah, she goes outside, she looks, she comes back, she says, Ya Zainab, Habib ibn Madahir has come here. And this is a distinction. No one received the salam from Zainab except Habib. That shows you that not only Imam al-Hussein appreciates help, but so does Zainab al-Kubra. She says, Fidda, send him my salam. Tell him Zainab, daughter of Fatima, says, Salam, Amya Habib. May Allah bless you for blessing us with your support. Look at Habib ibn Madahir alayhi salamullah when he is standing outside. And Fidda comes to him and she says, Ya Habib, Zainab, daughter of Fatima, sends her your salams or sends you her salams. Immediately he begins to slap his face. He throws his turban to the floor. And then he says, who is my mother? And who is her mother? Woe be to me, what kind of a world it is that the friends are so little and the enemies are so many. That Zainab alayha salamullah sends salam to me. I am a nobody and she is the daughter of Fatima to Zahra alayhi salamullah. If you want to be specified by Zainab with a salam, give your nusra to Sayyid al-Shuhada in all that you do. Yes, bi abi wa ummi on yawmi Ashura. They all spent the night in dua and in prayer and bidding farewell to one another. Muslim ibn Awsaja was shaheed before Habib ibn Madahir alayhi salam Allah, and we'll conclude with the Masaib inshallah. When Muslim ibn Awsaja fell to the floor, Habib and Imam al-Hussain were the ones who rushed towards his body to pick up the janazah. When they got to Muslim ibn Awsaja, Habib looks at him and he says, "Oh Muslim ibn Awsaja, had I not known that my life is only going to be a span of a few moments, and then I too will be shaheed and I will be joining you. If I could live long in this world, then I would have said to you, O Muslim, leave behind your will with me that I may execute it." Yes, he's saying to him, tell me what is your will, but I'm not going to live long after you, so I am unable to do anything. Muslim ibn Awsaja alayhi salamullah, they say with his very final strength that he had, he raised his hand and pointed towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He said, "Ya Habib ibn Madahir, if indeed you want me to leave you a will, then my will is that this gharib of Karbala, protect him with everything you can. Let no one reach him until you have given your life before his life, then surely you would have fulfilled my will." Yes, bi abi wa ummi, Habib alayhi salam Allah says to him, then it is the best wasiyyah to the best of friends. After that he says to him, "Ya Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, allow me to go out and give my life in your defense." Habib was so old that his brows would cover his eyes so he couldn't see properly. So he gets a bandana and he ties his eyebrows behind, then he enters the battlefield saying his poetry that if you think my age is old and my strike is weak, then try me and test me. Come close to the camp of Hussein. He fought them in single-handed battle, one after the other, until they realized that he is a man despite his age, that he cannot be taken in one-on-one combat. They began to surround him from all sides, some of them throwing arrows on him, others throwing spears, some of them throwing stones, until Habib fell down. When he fell down from his horse, he began to fight on foot. He was not willing to give up anything. He says, "Though I may be old, I will strike you until I can strike you no more." Ajarakumullah. One of them came from behind him, raised his sword and struck him on the back of the head in the same manner in which Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck. They hit him on the back of the head. The sword came out from the front of his forehead. Blood began to seep and Habib's face turned red. He said, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, alayka minni salam." If you are able to reach me, O son of Fatima Zahra, then beautiful is the farewell. Hasten towards me that I may see you before I depart this world. Yes, Imam al-Hussein rushed towards the side of Habib alayhi salamullah. When he sat next to him, he wept so much that physically Zainab alayhi salam could see from a distance the shoulders of Imam al-Hussein were shaking up and down because he was heartbroken and devastated. He looked at Habib. He says, "Oh Habib, oh Habib, after you there is no more joy left in this dunya, and I pray to Allah that He hastens my death, for I surely cannot be without you for too long." These are the friends of Abu Abdullah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب سينقلبون. إلهي وسيدي ومولاي, we ask you by the friendship of Habib, raise amongst every one of our youth a Habib ibn Madahir, that they may be the friends of the living Imam, the awaited Imam, the lonely Imam, the estranged Imam. The Imam who says on these nights of Muharram, "Is there anyone to lend me their tears so that I do not cry alone?" Our Imam is very lonely specifically in this month. And we who wish to be his friends should remember him in this month more than any other month of our lives. And every time we remember him, we should say, عظم الله لك الأجر بمصابك بأبيك Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ilahi, hasten his reappearance. Make us a joy for his eyes, a supporter for his cause, and shuhada between his hands, Ya Arhamar Rahimin. For our marhumin, for your marhumin, for سائر مرحومين المؤمنين والمؤمنات لا سيما من مات على حب محمد وآل محمد, we give them the beautiful gift of Surah Al-Mubarakah Al-Fatiha مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Brothers and sisters, or brothers rather, if you can come forward for Latmiya, I've prepared some Latmiya in honor of the companions and Imam Mahdi. Just a couple minutes, inshallah, brothers. To the front, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain,